see blue skies and vacancy. How are you doing? And later on, switch on TV. They give me the news, they give half truths to me. They give why they feel alive. Now how are you doing? When you came there, you came. Now we sit back till Uncensored Radio Free America. Rick Adams is on.
Children of all ages. Good evening and welcome back to our live edition of the, well, I almost said the Deadly Experiment. That's our local television program of the program Uncensored Radio Free America. Welcome aboard. Had the night off last night, and many of you enjoyed the replay of the interview we did with Lindsey Williams. And I know you find him to be fascinating, and he is and was last night, and he'll be back again soon. Well, tonight, we're going to be talking about a lot of things, so don't touch that dial. We will be talking a lot about failure or failures and who's responsible for the debacle in New Orleans, particularly later on. But in the first hour, I have invited back by popular demand none other than Dr. Rick Santee. And he, of course, as an ND, has been one of the leading promoters in the country of non-toxic approaches to chronic and degenerative illnesses. And he has traveled extensively in Germany, France, Holland, Indonesia, Tahiti, and Mexico. And he's been consulting with some of the most advanced practitioners in the world. Dr. Santee has been a very active educator and lecturer in the Southern California area. He's internationally recognized as an authority in the fields of oxygen ozone therapy, cancer, and cesium high pH therapy, electromagnetic therapy, and live blood cell analysis. He spent several years providing referral services to clinics in the Tijuana border area, and he's been a very vocal critic of the pharmaceutical industry. Now, of course, he is under attack. He's been prosecuted or charged, his offices ransacked, and he, of course, arrested for the crime of allegedly practicing medicine without a license. I think that's one of the charges. Welcome aboard, Dr. Rick Santee.
Thank you, Rick. That was a wonderful introduction, and I think you hit it right on the head when you said at the intro that we're facing a tremendous onslaught from the pharmaceutical industry to suppress all of these cheap and effective technologies.
Mm-hmm. That we are. I was just looking at the studies today out of Sweden about the latest on B vitamins and folic acid in fighting heart disease, and of course that study concluded not only are they ineffective, but they can be dangerous to the heart and do
well. You know, why is Sweden so far ahead of us? I just got a study here a few minutes ago on Yahoo saying that the angioplasty treatments they're using with the blood thinners are causing more deaths than they're helping with heart disease.
Well, I don't know about that, but the first story is highly suspect because, as you know, vitamin B complexes, B1, B6, and folic acid have been used successfully. Many heart surgeons have suggested them as well in combating heart disease, but now here comes this study, just like many of the academic studies in America, and they seem to be reflecting who finances them more than anything. All right, Doc, you stay where you are. We'll talk about you and your case when we come back. I'm Rick Adams. Stay tuned.
Adams is back. Radio Avenger, the Paul Revere of talk radio.
are here as the Paul Revere. We're sounding the alarm. Dr. Rick Santee is our guest, and on April 8th of this year, he was arrested by the Los Angeles Sheriff's Department. He was charged with 10 felonies, including practicing medicine without a license, practicing medicine without a certificate, and 2 counts of grand theft and weapons charges. He is currently awaiting trial. And Rick, for those who don't know, what is this business about some of these charges, about the weapons charges and grand theft? What are they all about?
Well, the grand theft charges were for me selling products to customers and delivering the products, which I never thought was grand theft. I don't take money from people without delivering what they ask for. So if someone wants to buy a mineral supplement or a water purifier, they give me the money and I give them the product just like you would if you went to any other business. But because they're saying that I was practicing without a license, that I was cheating people by selling them products.
And
so,
what was the original complaint or whatever that brought in the Sheriff's Department? Some unsatisfied patient or client or customer?
No, actually what happened was a person that came in for some advice regarding their cancer was satisfied with the suggestions that I offered, but they had a friend. This person had a friend who happened to be a pharmacist. And this pharmacist had come to some of my very open and very public meetings that I would host at least 1 to 2 times a week for no charge. And this person came to the meetings and listened to my strongly anti-pharmaceutical message and decided that this person was going to put a stop to my meetings and went to the state medical board and filed a formal complaint. And that's when the medical board got a judge in East LA to rubber stamp the whole project, which is the way I'm finding out they operate here, because I'm finding a lot of other practitioners now in this state have been through the same thing, that these judges are acting as just rubber stamps basically for the drug company. So that's what
Not surprising, is it?
No, it isn't. And that's what instigated the Sheriff's Department coming to all my meetings and then posing as cancer patients. And then when they came into my office, they bought 2 products for about $400 and then charged me with grand theft on that. And then when they raided my office, they took my microscopes and all of my equipment that I use to help people understand how their body works and how the disease process works with all of these different chronic and degenerative illnesses. And they went to my house and proceeded to tear that apart and charged me with weapons charges on top of it. Which
what are they all about, the weapons charges now?
Well, when they came to my house, they had a warrant that enumerated looking for medical equipment, which of course I didn't have any at my residence because I don't work out of my house. But they decided to tear the place apart. I don't work out of my house, but they decided to tear the place apart, and then they charged me with possession of some other things, hand grenades and things which were props, which they later dropped, and then charged me with assault weapons possession.
Assault weapons?
Yep.
What did you have, a water scooter or something like that?
Well, a couple of those things. But, the gun charges, guns were actually purchased when these types of weapons were legal in California. We had a law in California that made a lot of weapons that were illegal with the stroke of a pen, and that's what happened. So they're actually what we could consider technical violations, but they're still trying to add
Weren't
these
they
charges.
grandfathered, though, those laws grandfathered?
Yes.
You were allowed to keep the weapons had you bought them earlier?
Actually, we're still fighting. There are technical aspects of this case that we're still looking into, but the fact is this is all part of our case, and they want to stack as many charges against me as they can in order for me to comply, maybe get into these felony charges. But we're going to be fighting this thing all the way.
Now, you have secured a legal team, I believe, that has specialized in these types of cases, and from what I understand, there are very competent attorneys there. And how are they proceeding with this case? What are they doing in preparation that you can tell us publicly?
Well, we're preparing to go to trial, and my legal team is the same team that defended Dr. Brzezinski, who has one of the highest cancer cure rates in the United States, especially childhood cancers. I think in Texas, Brzezinski was attacked for years. He was brought to trial maybe 3 or 4 times, and the last time he was acquitted on 57 charges of fraud. And he has hundreds and hundreds of patients who came to his defense and raised money for him. Anybody who's doing good work and is getting people well without the use of drugs is going to be a target for these people, and that's what happened to him. So I've retained the same defense team that Dr. Brzezinski had, and also out here we have Dr. Eidelman and Dr. Bernardo, who were also attacked in the same way, and my legal team represented him also.
It's hard to believe that in America today, with all of the crises we have, and the storms and the hurricanes and the need for human resources to do good, that the United States and certain states and counties are investing a great deal of capital, and I mean taxpayers' money, in harassing people who have done no wrong, in fact have done good. This is, to me, it's hard to fathom, Rick.
Well, last week I had dinner with the brother of a man by the name of Jimmy Keller. Jimmy Keller was curing hundreds of cancer cases using a non-toxic formula of amino acids, and they kidnapped him at gunpoint out of Mexico with no extradition, with no charges, and he's been through a terrible ordeal. And actually, I can't go into too much detail, but there's a major Hollywood movie company right now that is going to be doing a movie about his life and his struggle, and it's going to be a real eye-opener for the American public to know that for all these years we've had the answers to all of these terrible problems, including cancer, but our own government has been the one suppressing it at the behest of the drug companies.
Well, I don't think many people will have difficulty believing what you've just said, as a matter of fact, since we have ample evidence now and ample cases of just how powerful the pharmaceutical industry is and how they've been able to use the FDA to get through their drugs, which are now proving to be highly toxic in some cases and highly dangerous, and yet they persist in trying to frighten, browbeat, and prescribe away with Codex and everything else coming down the pike, the use of supplementation and vitamins and minerals. It's just mind-boggling, but here's the evidence. People like you who, you've done no harm that I know of, and I know others who have done the same have done good, and yet you're being harassed and browbeaten by the medical establishment. But we know in this country, in the judicial system and in the departments of health and so forth, there's a great deal of injustice. And for the life of me, I can't understand how the American people continue to tolerate it. I mean, we had the case there, of Katie, little young Katie in Texas, and others taken from their parents, given toxic chemotherapy for cancers against their own wishes, never mind their parents. And we have this big brother attitude today. And all we hear from the White House and others is, we're promoting freedom in Iraq. And I'm asking, where's the freedom here in America? Where is it? We are a nation under dictatorship. Whether it's the medical establishment or the Defense Department or Big Brother or FDA or any of the other, I just can't understand how we tolerate it. I just don't. And I don't know what more I can say about
myself.
That.
I couldn't have said it better myself, Rick.
Well, thank you. I want to invite people to call in now in this hour here and discuss issues pertaining to this situation, Dr. Rick Santee. And you can go on the net and you can go right, I believe you have a site, Doc, don't you?
No, I don't. Not at this time.
But you do have sites that do detail what you've been through, and
yes,
obviously I'll list you.
NoMoreFakeNews.com, and also Rick Stanley's website is very active.
Right. Okay. Got a question or a comment, and join me. Then you can speak with Dr. Rick Santee tonight. 800-313-9443 is the number that'll put you through. Toll free. 800-313-9443. I know the last time you were on, Rick, you asked for help and you asked for people to give you feedback and support, and I gather you did get some, didn't you?
Absolutely. As a matter of fact, I'm getting money and letters from all over the country and Canada. I just got a check from Canada the other day because a lot of my former patients are sending emails out and to websites asking on my behalf, and the people are starting to respond. Yes, it's absolutely helping.
All right, great. Okay, then we will take calls when we come back from the break. Again, Rick Adams, your host, Uncensored, Radio Free America, exclusively here on the Republic Broadcasting Network, rbnlive.com, and a host of great affiliates. And, of course, we welcome all of you to take advantage of this opportunity to talk to Dr. Rick Santee and what he's all about. Toll free, 800-313-9443 is all you need to do. And I can't urge you enough that even if you don't have any health problems and you're living right and you're on the organic program, to get involved in this fight, because it will affect all of us if we lose these battles. All right, we'll be back with Dr. Santee. I'm Rick Adams. Stay with us.
The New World Order thought police are on the run because Rick Adams is back. Because Rick Adams is back on the Republic Broadcasting Network.
All righty. Okay. Hello, we're back. And we'll go to the phones in just a moment. Our guest, again, Dr. Rick Santee. And we're talking about freedom in America today. Freedom to be able to consult with doctors like Dr. Santee about one's very serious illnesses, how to seek out alternative treatments to the powerful medical establishment, and all of that. And, of course, as we just said, he is going to court very soon to defend his rights that should not have to be defended at a great expense for him and others who are, having to hire legal teams. And that's our issue tonight for the first hour. We're trying to find out what kind of a sick nation we have become when we allow this sort of powerful tyranny to prevail in a land that supposedly was the land of the free. 800-313-9443. Jump aboard. And we've got Louis in Washington, I believe. Is that right, Louis?
Yes.
Hi, how are you?
I just wanted to ask Dr. Santee, is he advertising these products in his capacity as a licensed medical practitioner or in his personal capacity?
Okay, he's listening. Go ahead, Doc.
Actually, I never did any advertising. I never maintained a website. Everybody who came to my office came through one of my meetings or through a personal referral. I've never done any advertising in my life, and none of the products were advertised in any way.
Okay, so have you been charged with a criminal code or a violation of the pharmaceutical code?
Some of the charges are from the Business and Practices Code of California, the practicing without a license and without a certificate, and then there are criminal codes having to deal with the grand theft charges.
Okay, well, here's what you do with the business codes and the licensing codes. I would pull those statutes and I would look at the footnotes at the bottom to see the session laws where they came from, and I would trace them back to and pull all the Senate bills and all the House bills on both sides and go back to the very first statute and look at their authorities and powers. You're going to see two things: that they only have jurisdiction over the licensee. They do not have jurisdiction over somebody who does not have the license. It's clearly laid out in California statutes. I've seen lots of stuff like that.
You know what? You're 100% right. I've looked. There's a case called Esposito versus State of California where I never had a license. I never wanted a license, and I made it very clear to all of my people in my meetings that I would never get a license because it would put me under the jurisdiction of the state, and that's exactly what I didn't want. So as far as I'm concerned, I'm not under their jurisdiction, and that's going to be part of my civil RICO lawsuit against the state medical board because I'm not under their jurisdiction.
Okay, well, here's what you need to do. You need to go to the Archives Division of the Secretary of State's Office of California and get certified copies of those statutes with the seal of the state on it, because the judges, like what you guys are saying, are in bed with the pharmaceutical companies, and they'll deny your motion, and then find you guilty and throw you in jail. However, if you can get specific statutes that are your affirmative defense in the record into evidence, and the only way you can do that is to get those things certified and attach them to an affidavit under the rules of evidence, Evidence Rule 902, and have your lawyer submit them as Exhibit A, as offer of proof number 1 under evidence, or the offer of proof rule, which is Evidence Rule 103, and make the court take judicial notice that this is a self-authenticating document under Evidence Rule 902 and is required to be admitted in evidence. It's a copy of the statute that says they only have jurisdiction over the licensee, and that since you're not a licensee, they have no jurisdiction over you. Plus, there's plenty of case law that specifically says for a statute to be constitutional, it has to specifically designate the classes or class of persons that it applies to and make a reasonable distinction who falls within, but more specifically who falls without the class and is not subject to the scope, jurisdiction, authority, or power of that statute. And it sounds to me like you could get that case won pre-trial, if you had some competent attorneys that were briefing this out right. Something like this is so clear-cut it should never go to trial.
You're right, and this is an area that we're really looking into is the jurisdictional issue. So I really appreciate this information, and I'm going to get on this and see if we can get these certified copies.
Do you have an email I can send you stuff to?
Yeah, do you have an email?
Let me give it
I know
to
you do. Go ahead, give it.
RS, like my name, then the number 4, truth. RS4truth@yahoo.com.
You got that, you?
Yes, Louis. Can I get Rick Adams' email too?
Well, I'll give it to my producer because right now I'm in flux. I'm switching over to another computer, so I'll let him give it to you. Okay.
Okay,
and
great.
you're Mr. Ewing, right?
Louis Ewing from Washington.
Louis Ewing,
State.
right? You've called a couple of times. You've given us quite a bit of legal information, and I agree with what you've said right now that that you need to be very technical, and Rick has to have before him certified copies of everything presented by
things into evidence, you'll go to jail.
Well, that's what they'd like to do. They put other doctors in jail. They've ransacked their offices. They've prosecuted. They've driven them out of business. It's nothing new. I mean,
I would also contact Dr. Edie Koenig in California. Apparently, years ago, the American Medical Association and the FDA attacked her, and she beat both of them in court with the briefings and research that she did on her own.
Dr. Koenig, you said?
Yes, Dr. Edie Koenig in California.
Right. Okay,
Louis, I would appreciate that email, and I'll send one back to you. I'd like to communicate with you more regarding this.
Okay, very good. Thank you for your call, Mr. Ewing. All right, brother. We'll be back with Rick Santee and your phone calls at 800-313-9443. This is Rick Adams. Uncensored Radio Free America. Rick Adams, Dr. Rick Santee, our guest, and our number toll free 800-313-9443. 9443. And Doc, is this what you do? Is this in the field of microbiology by any chance?
Well, what I was doing is called live blood analysis. And
Right.
so what we would do is take one drop of blood from the finger and put it onto a microscope slide,
Right.
and then could examine it under a 1,000-power phase contrast microscope.
Uh-huh.
And it's quite amazing what you can see in the living blood.
Now, you believe there are parasites in the blood in some cases, right?
Well, it's not a matter of belief. It's a known fact. All human beings, plants, and animals contain prebacterial forms, and there are different nomenclatures that are
Right.
used, somatids or protids or symbioprotid. This goes back to the work of Dr. Enderlin and a gentleman from Canada named Gaston Mason, who did a lot of work with these prebacterial forms. And as soon as you spend a few minutes under one of these microscopes, you can see these things immediately. And the conventional medical establishment is in complete denial about the whole process because they believe that our blood is sterile. And that's an absolute impossibility. If you had sterile blood, you wouldn't live for 5 minutes.
That is incredible indeed. Yeah, I mean, we have here in where I come from, Rhode Island, we have the case of a man whose offices were ransacked, raided, shut down by the...
Let me, I'm very familiar
From Rhode Island, we have the case of a man whose offices were ransacked, raided, shut down by the...
let me, I'm very familiar with Dr. Curran because he called me. He called me two and a half weeks before they hit me, telling me his situation. And the thing is, there's only 3 states that have a naturopathic unlicensed practitioner protection law: Rhode Island, California, and Minnesota. And they've been trying to hit at least one practitioner in each state to try to roll back these protections.
In violation of the laws of those states.
Absolutely.
So this, by the way, give us the name of the exact laws once again.
Well, out here in California, it was under a Senate bill that passed, and I think it was 533. And the law was something like the Complementary Physicians Protection Act of California. It was signed into law about 3 years ago by Governor Davis, and it's still in effect.
Greg Davis, yeah. All right, and Dr. Curran, now, what is his status? Have you been in touch with him lately?
I haven't spoken with him. The last time I talked to him was a few days before I was arrested and jailed. And but what the last I heard is that they froze his bank accounts, but they had him. But they never filed any charges. They kept raiding his office and his house and taking his records and they took his microscopes just like I have in his ozone machine.
That was in the newspaper story, yeah.
But they never filed any formal charges against him.
Well, the words they used in the story is that this is not about alternative medicine. We're not, cracking heads, Gestapo and all of that. This is about fraud. And they claimed that he was committing fraud, reaping thousands of dollars from people who went to see him. That was the storyline.
That's the same thing about me out here. In the USA Today and out here, they said I was charging people $2,000 a visit. The most I've ever charged anyone was $195. They said I was seeing 15 patients a week at $2,000 each. I was lucky to see 3 or 4 people a month in my office.
Now, let me ask you this, because that was in the press, right?
Yep.
How in the world did the media pick up on something like that? Who fed it to them, and how is it that they can get away with that sort of libel?
Well, as far as the getting away of it, we'll see about that, because the USA Today and the LA Daily News will also be sued by me for defamation of character, malicious libel, because the whole thing was so ridiculous, and they almost put the word terrorist in there. And I wish they had, but that's what they tried to make, and they caused me to be evicted from my apartment and a lot of other things. So no, this will not go without retaliation. I can assure you.
You come on, now you must be part of Al Qaeda.
Yeah, that's what it's coming down to in this country. Anybody who's resisting this tyranny is either Al Qaeda or some other mythical.
Oh, yeah.
First of all, I'd like for all your listeners who don't know, there is no such thing as Al Qaeda. It's all BS. There never was any Al Qaeda. And every time you see somebody get blown up or one of these buildings come down, I think you better look to Washington before you look anywhere else.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would agree with you there. I don't think there's any question about that. And that is the name of the game. What we're talking about is a criminal enterprise. It's called government. And the government of the United States, through the FDA and state health departments and so forth, are running scared right now because they realize that more and more Americans are doing what we've just talked about. And it's incredible because how in the world can people who have come to you for advice and consultation and so forth, how must they feel right now that they are being cheated and robbed of a patient, client, doctor type of relationship? And these people were right in the middle of this. We're getting advice from you, getting consultation, analysis, and so forth. Have they been in touch with you? I'm sure they must be outraged.
Well, I'm getting, when things like this happen, Rick, let me try and put it into a broader perspective for you.
Sure.
All last weekend, I was at the Cancer Control Convention here in Los Angeles, the 33rd annual convention. It's the biggest alternative cancer expo in the world. Every doctor from all over the world comes to this thing. And they asked me, why did this happen to you now? Because we knew you were going to retire soon. And really what this is about is this is God's plan for me, because if I'd have just kept living my life the way I was, I would have closed my office shortly and retired and gone on with my other projects in my life. But now that this has happened to me, my message is going to millions of people. Instead of speaking to 20, 30, 40 people at a time, I'm speaking to thousands of people at a time. I had a doctor friend of mine who was in Houston a few weeks ago, and he said, I heard you on the radio. On I think it was your show, rebroadcast in Houston. He said, I know that guy. This message has to get out, and I think that God is using this my situation to force me to make this message public. Because if I had gone on the way I was going, I'd have just that had been the end of it. So this has forced me to become a public figure with this.
Well, amen to that, as you say. 800-313-9443 is our number. Jump aboard now while there's time. You have a question or a comment, or you'd like to give some verbal support to our guest, Dr. Rick Santee. 800-313-9443. I remember years ago, Rick, that I would undergo this sort of thing because I was one of the people who was heavily involved in the alternative healthcare field way back in the 70s when I was a college student. And I started getting involved in the Cancer Control Society and the Committee for the Prevention of, I forget exactly what it was now, but for the freedom of choice in cancer therapy. And there was the Laetrile issue and all of those different groups. And I remember the subject of hair analysis came up, similar maybe to blood analysis. Now, did you ever do the hair analysis technique, or was that something?
Yes, I did it. I did it years ago. I would order hair testing for people all the time, and it's a very good tool.
Yeah.
And I got to the point, though, where with my blood analysis and other techniques that I use, I could pretty much, what I tried to tell people was a lot of my people would come in and they didn't have a lot of money for diagnostics. I would say, you know what, save your money for therapy, because a lot of times these diagnostic tools are not accurate, and people wind up spending their life savings on diagnosing their problem, and then by the time they diagnose it, they have no money left for therapy. Mm-hmm. So I would try to steer more into getting going on therapeutic models than wasting too much time and money on trying to find that needle in the haystack to diagnose exactly what their problem is.
Right. Now, ozone. We hear the word, and it has all kinds of negative connotations in much of the media reportage. What is your view, and what have you been doing with ozone?
Ozone is probably one of the most powerful healing modalities on the planet. I've seen miracle after miracle with it. I mean, with cancer, with AIDS, with arthritis, with kidney disease, with liver disease. It's just the most miraculous, and it's so dirt cheap. That's why the government and the drug companies hate it, and why they put every ozone practitioner I know behind bars or offshore or dead. It's a miraculous, highly reactive form of oxygen that when it comes in contact with any microbes, any heavy metals, any plastics, any chemicals, it oxidizes them and destroys them. You can sterilize contaminated AIDS, hepatitis C, riddled blood in 5 minutes with it. And you can see people go from jaundice yellow back to pink and rosy in just a few treatments. Hyperbaric oxygen, ozone, any form of oxidative therapy, it's just, you cannot believe it until you experience it. Treatments, hyperbaric oxygen, ozone, any form of oxidative therapy, it's just, you cannot believe it until you experience it. And once you experience it, no amount of lies and distortions and propaganda can ever take it away from you. It's so powerful.
How in the world does it work? Explain to me the mechanics of it.
Well, regular oxygen is O2. It's a very stable gas.
Right.
Now, let me give you an example. Imagine in your mind you have a plastic hose coming out of an oxygen bottle, and you turn on the oxygen, and out comes the oxygen. If I were to put that up to a latex glove that I was wearing, nothing would happen. Now, if I put an ozone machine in line with that oxygen, and I click it on, as soon as I turn on the ozone machine, the ozone O3 reactive oxygen will eat through that latex glove in 2 seconds. You'll see that the latex actually being eaten away by the highly corrosive oxidation of ozone. Mm-hmm. And this is the same thing that it does to bacteria, to viruses, to fungus, to yeast, to chemicals, plastics, and even heavy metals over time will be oxidized by oxygen. I had a gentleman in one of my lectures named Reverend Dudley Spofford, who's in Taiwan now building his own ozone machines. He had stage 4 lymphoma cancer, a 60-pound tumor in his abdomen, and all he was drink 3 to 5 glasses a day of ozone water. In 5.5 months, he was completely cured. He's been cancer-free for 8.5 years, and he had to move to China to build his ozone machines because he was being harassed so much by
You mean communist China?
Yes, he's actually in Taiwan, but he's having the machines built in communist China where they have more freedom.
Oh my gosh! Please, somebody wake me up! Wake me up! This
and
is incredible.
if you want to check this story out, if you don't believe me for all the doubting Thomases, you could go into the December 2004 issue of Townsend Letter for Doctors. It's a very well-respected magazine for the medical trade. Townsend Letter for Doctors, and read the story of Reverend Dudley Spofford, and you'll be blown away.
And that is spelled Townsend, right?
Yes, Townsend Letter for Doctors, and the gentleman's name is Reverend Dudley Spofford, Spofford.
Wow. Okay, that's interesting. We have a question here. How can we practically increase the oxygen content in our homes?
Well, one way is to insulate your house properly. Try to cut down if you have any contaminants that you know about, like radon or some of these other things. You want to get rid of those. Some of these home air purifiers and ozone machines are pretty good. But the best way is to drink highly oxygenated waters, do lymphatic exercise like rebounding. But drinking 1 glass of ozonated water will raise your blood oxygen level up to 100% within 15 minutes. And that can be verified with an oximeter. Just put it on your finger and you'll see your oxygen level go up from 92% to 100% in 5 minutes.
This is just one aspect of the ozone issue that is being touched upon. You point out, and I know of some doctors and chiropractors and others who are practicing this type of thing, and they are getting equally successful results. They are just tickled pink, pardon the pun, at just how well people who are their patients are doing. And unfortunately, as you point out, they're doing this almost totally on the QT, only because they are fearful that saving their patients from life-threatening diseases may be hazardous to their own health. And that, again, belies the fact that here in America today, we are less free than in some dictatorships and tyrannical regimes. Hard to believe, but true. Going on right under our noses. And, you think about it. You mentioned the Al-Qaeda mythology earlier. Any nation that has become this dumb, really, and its people have been dumbed down so much to believe what their government tells them without questioning it, what their doctors tell them without questioning it, what anybody tells them, their educators and so forth, really is a sad state of affairs. And, we are the laughing stock of the world now, primarily because we are so gullible. Our media are controlled heavily, the magazines and newspaper industries. It's just absolutely frightening. Let's take a call. Andrew in Connecticut. Hi, you're on the program with Dr. Rick Santee.
Hey guys, how are you?
Good.
Hey Rick, thanks for having this guest. And I'm not sure if you touched upon this. I'm multitasking here. I got you on. I'm working.
Sure.
I'm watching the Sox.
That's all right. You're permitted that.
All right. Does your guest have any insight with regards to alternative treatment for diabetes type 1?
Okay, answer that, Rick.
Thank you.
Well, diabetes type number 1 is a whole different disease than number 2. Basically, what the type 1 is a pancreatic insufficiency. Now, it can be turned around, but it takes a lot of work. And the main problem with it is most people that have that condition are not willing to do the work that it takes to rebuild the pancreas. It takes following a strict diet. They've got to stay off booze and drugs. And most people, to be honest with you, are not willing to do it. Now, those people that are willing to stick to a program can rebuild the pancreas. They can rebuild the Isle of Langerhans. They can rebuild the beta cells. They can rebuild all of these cells if given the proper nutrition and nutritional supports to do it. The main problem is a lot of times with type 1 diabetes, you're dealing with children, and it's difficult to get them on the right foods. And number 2, most practitioners, especially regular MDs, have no idea how to address it. So if you're lucky enough to find somebody that has experience in that type of condition, yes, you can deal with it and turn it around. But it takes time. Diabetes number 2, on the other hand, you can turn that around in 3 to 4 weeks if you get going. The problem is we've got a nation of people addicted to carbohydrates, bagels and donuts and Krispy Kremes and the rest of it, and they won't give up those foods to save their lives.
That's a good point. That's true.
I appreciate the information. So you're saying, and this is for an adult, my sister, she's in her 30s.
You can totally turn it around. If you'd like to read a good book on it, get Dr. Bernstein's diabetes book.
Okay.
All right. Thank you very much,
All right,
Andrew,
thanks,
for the
guys.
call. Rick Santee, doctor, our guest, and we'll be right back with Doug in Texas. I'm Rick Adams. Stay tuned for more.
Tell your friends Rick Adams is on rbnlive.com.
Indeed, do it before it's too late. Spread the word. Ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Rick Santee, our guest, and he's facing criminal charges in Los Angeles, in California, because of what he is alleged to have done. And we talked about that at the very beginning of the program. What's happening to our freedom in America affects all of us, not just Dr. Rick Santee. It's not his battle, it's our battle. And let's go back to the phones right now and say hello to Doug in Texas. Hello, Doug.
Yeah, hi Rick. How you doing? It's good to call into your show again. I so miss it. My travel schedule took me away for a while. It's good to hear what you're doing, And frankly, the reason I called in is to say a couple of things. I'm glad that Mr. Ewing called in tonight because I've been in contact with him on other things.
Right, Mr. Ewing. Yep.
Really. I'm glad that Mr. Ewing called in tonight because I've been in contact with him on other things.
Right, Mr. Ewing. Yep.
Really help you out.
Louis Ewing, good man.
Oh, yeah, he is a good man. The second thing is I tuned in late, and I was really wanting to get a lot more information on how I can, get to a website or whatever related to Rick. I don't even have the correct spelling of his last name.
He doesn't have his own website, as he said, but he has an email address, and it's very easy. Rick, go ahead, give it again, and how people can help you. They can email support for you, anything at all, contributions, any kind of moral support, prayers, whatever, right?
Yes, my email is rs4truth, just rs like my name, then the number 4, truth, Truth, at yahoo.com.
Okay, well that's great. I'll get a hold of you offline related to that. But while you're on the radio, I'd appreciate hearing more about you talk about the. I'm guessing something you drink that's got the oxygen. It seems to have a very high effect. I'd like to hear more about what products and where you get them, that sort of thing. And
well, the only product you need is ozone. And what people can do is if they get an ozone machine, they can bubble the ozone through the water, and the water will retain the ozone, and then you drink the water, and it will immediately raise your blood oxygen level and start oxidizing and destroying any type of contaminant. Here, let me simplify it for you so you really can understand. All of our chronic and degenerative illnesses are based on one thing, and that is oxygen deficiency at the cellular level. If you don't have enough oxygen in your body will start to go into a process known as fermentation. Fermentation is the rotting process. If you look at a piece of fruit on a tree and it looks all nice and shiny, and then you take that same piece of fruit, throw it on the ground, in 4 days it'll turn brown and have puckers in it because it's starting to ferment due to a lack of oxygen. In order to keep you from fermenting, you need to have oxygen at a high level in your body and the minerals to convey oxygen. All of these diseases cannot be addressed unless you address oxygen deficiency at the cellular level.
How's that?
Yeah, that's great. I'm curious about the ozone machines you talk about. The only thing I'm really familiar with, I've seen a big industrial model they brought into an apartment one time to clean out all the stuff, the bacteria and junk that was there. But what about
those work, and you can purchase home units that will make the gas and push it out through an air stone, like a fish tank air stone, and that will bubble it through water. You can also take the gas and apply it into the rectum, into the vagina, the ears, any cavity of the body. You can also inject it with a syringe into veins and arteries.
So where do you get the little ozone machines? I'm not familiar with these.
There's all kind of people selling them on the internet, and I was selling them for years. A lot of people sell them. They're very effective, and they're one of, as far as a product that you can buy to take care of your health, it's probably the number one value, because once you have the machine, there's nothing more to buy. You just turn it on and plug it in and make water all day long and wash your vegetables. You can do a million things with the machine. If you really want to understand this subject, the best book is called Flood Your Body with Oxygen.
All right, thank you, Doug. Get a run, Doug. Thank you. Do we still have another Doug on the line? Okay, good. Well, Dr. Rick Santee, it's been my pleasure again. We'll have you back soon. Take care. God bless you.
Thank you, Rick.
We'll be in touch. Thank you. Rick Santee, great show. We'll be back with Louisiana coming up next. I'm Rick Adams.